This is part 19 of the RevSim Virtual Coffee Break Series. We've done nearly 20 of these, and you can find all previous 18 along with this particular case study on the RevSim.org site. In just a minute, I'm going to turn things over to Wolfgang Gintz, who's going to walk you through this case study. Before we get to that, however, just a real quick run-through of the RevSim site. You're probably familiar with it by now. I hope you've visited it. If you haven't, I encourage you to do so. There's lots of information. Even if you've gone there in the past, I invite you to stop back on a regular basis because we're constantly updating it with new material, new information, upcoming events, and so forth. Just maybe try to think about making it a part of your morning routine to check in at RevSim.org, get a cup of coffee, see what's new. So in addition to these videos, you're going to see lots of other kind of content, as I mentioned before. I invite you to become a stakeholder in RevSim.org. Here you'll see on the site just a way you can get a hold of me. There's a Contact Us button. If you're interested to learn more about how you can participate, not only take from the site, but to give if you've got some ideas, I invite you to get a hold of me, and I'd like to talk to you about that. So with that, I'm going to turn things over to Wolfgang, and he's going to take you through the case study.
Yeah, thank you very much, Bob. This is Wolfgang. And today we are talking about our case study number 118, which is about coupling in-house finite element codes with an ANSYS Fluent solver for fluid dynamics. The end user is Rolls-Royce in Germany, which works as a thermal analyst specializing in temperature predictions for jet engine components, and here in this case based on CFD and finite element methods. The use case is about a jet engine, high pressure compressor assembly, which was the subject of a transient aerothermal analysis using finite element CFD coupling. And this coupling is achieved through an iterative loop with smooth exchange of information between the finite element simulation and the CFD simulation at each time step, and ensuring consistency of temperature and heat flux on the coupled interfaces between the metal and the fluid domains. And the aim of this experiment was to link the commercial CFD code ANSYS Fluent with an in-house existing homegrown, self-developed finite element code. And this was done by extracting the heat flux profiles from the Fluent CFD model and applying them then to the finite element model. And the finite element model for that provides metal temperatures in the solid domain. This so-called conjugate heat transfer process is very consuming in terms of compute power and time, especially when 3D CFD models with more than 10 million cells are required. So on the next slide, you see already the results in these figures. So one shows contours of the total temperature for a jet engine component, and the second one shows for the same thing the heat flux. And obviously there were a few challenges which had to be addressed. The first one clearly was bringing together two very different software packages from different providers. Both the finite element code and the ANSYS Fluent CFD code have, for example, different licensing models, and they had to basically interact between each other and so that they could be implemented on the cluster environment. The second challenge was getting the Fluent process to run on several machines when called from the finite element software. Usually the CFD simulations, they are taking much longer than the finite element simulations. So to achieve a balance in time, it is necessary that you use many more cores for the fluent simulation than for the finite element code. And therefore, the CFD computation was performed on 32 cores using 2 compute nodes. And to be highly efficient and scalable, then they were interconnected by Mellanox InfiniBand FDR fabric. So then on the next slide, the figure already shows the cluster load during the calculation cycles, and so you see the calculation was done in cycles in which the finite element code and Fluent CFD, as I mentioned previously, ran alternating, and in between exchanging after every time step their results. As it can be seen from the figure, only the CFD part of the calculation was done on all 32 cores, while the finite element part ran just on one single sequential core. The figure also indicates that the whole calculation spent most of the time in the CFD component, which we expected and which I already mentioned before. So sometimes in our case studies, the end user also provides a statement about the collaboration, as is seen here, and I can agree that, because I was part of this project as well, that there was a great collaboration between ANSYS, Wim Slagter supported most of our case study projects from ANSYS, and the cloud provider, then CPU 24/7. And if you want to learn more about this and other case studies, then just follow this link here, and you will get much more detailed information. And with that, we turn to the last slide. And this is to invite you again, as Bob previously mentioned, to join the Revolution in Simulation initiative. Come to our website. You can read a lot of detailed information about anything concerning simulations. You can also access on the OSC and the UberCloud website, as you see here with the links, our case studies and other accompanying information. And that's it. And we thank you very much on behalf of Bob, Alan, and myself, Wolfgang. And looking forward to the next coffee break then, together with you.